Hi, my name is John Martin OMB Maturan, and together with my groupmates Mary Ann Discotido and April Mirasol, we're going to talk about nonfiction, biography, and autobiography. Literature. It's a big term that encompasses just about every type of written word there is. Now, it may be overwhelming to think about just about every type of literature exists in the world, but there are only really two main groups that literature can be categorized into: fiction and nonfiction. Fiction includes all written works that are made up or invented by the author. This includes novels, short stories, or poems. Nonfiction, on the other hand, are written works that are based on real events and not made up by the author. So let's dive deeper into nonfiction. What is nonfiction? Nonfiction is a broad genre of writing that encompasses all books that aren't rooted in a fictional narrative. Nonfiction writing can be based on history and biography. It can also be instructional. It can also offer commentary and humor, and it can also ponder some philosophical questions. Basically, if a book is not rooted in a made up story, then it is nonfiction. Fiction are literature that are created from the imagination, while nonfiction are literature that are based in facts. Here are some books that I own to give you guys real-life examples of fiction and nonfiction literature. Here are examples of fiction. These are not all the books that I own, but these are just the books that I have with me at the moment. Here we have Dan Brown, Kathy Reach, Lisa Jackson, and Michael Connolly. Dan Brown's books are examples of mystery conspiracy thrillers, and the rest are mystery crime thrillers. Here we have nonfiction literatures that we own. The three colorful ones are from my father, and it's all about computers when computers were new. As you can see, I also bought Foundations of Special and Inclusive Education textbook because why not? Astronomy is from my brother. All of these are textbooks except for Chicken Soup for the Soul, which is a self-help book. It's a compilation of short stories from people around the world, and it's very self-reflecting and wholesome. I would recommend this to anyone who's going through stuff or just need motivation. It's a great book overall. If you really dumb down the differences between fiction and nonfiction, think of it like this. Nonfiction is the boring one, while fiction is the fun one. Because most of the time, if we were to choose what kinds of book to read, we would choose fiction over nonfiction 9 out of 10 times because it is much more entertaining. And we can think of fiction as our escape from reality because nothing from fiction is real. Here are some 9 essential genres of nonfiction books that exists. History. Historical nonfiction consists of true accounts of historical eras and events. Some histories dwell purely in objective facts, and other histories are refracted through the lens of the author's personal beliefs. In either case, history books must present true stories in order to qualify as nonfiction. Famous writers of history include David Halberstam and Doris Kearns Goodwin. Biographies and autobiographies. I'm not gonna dive deep into this because this is the topic of my groupmates, so travel guides and travelogues. Travelogues are a close cousin of memoirs, and they recount an author-specific experience traveling somewhere. Travel guides tend to be more instructive, offering suggestions and practical information for travelers bound for a particular destination. Academic texts. Academic texts are designed to instruct readers on a particular topic. Most of us first encounter academic books in the form of assigned school textbook that will form the basis for a year-long class. Academic texts are also used by adults wishing to learn a particular trade, such as car repair or music arranging. Philosophy and insight. These books are a close cousin of academic texts, and many are published by university-affiliated publishing houses. This genre runs the gamut from traditional philosophy from Plato, Aristotle, and Descartes, to scientific theories like Newton, Watson, and Crick, to analysis of scientific or cultural phenomena. Journalism. Journalism is a broad subgenre of nonfiction and one that encompasses many media. Journalism is most regularly consumed in the form of newspapers and magazines, along with monthly journals, TV news reports, and more. Journalism reports on true events that typically, but not always, have relevance to a contemporary audience. Journalism can also take the form of books. This includes narrative nonfiction and true crime books. Some of these books, like Losing Earth by Nathaniel Rich and Memphis Rent Part by Robert Gordon, straddle the line between journalism and history. The best journalism can receive acclaims like the Pulitzer Prize and the Peabody and Polk Awards. Self help and instruction. Self help books are some of the best selling books that exist in the genre of nonfiction. Many of these books concern business, success, buoyant confidence, staying organized, relationship advice, dieting, and financial management. Guides and how to manuals. Related to the self help subgenre, but more focused on specific skills, is the subgenre of guides and how to manuals. These include cookbooks, musical notations, athletic instructions, and tutorials for home hobbyists. Humor and commentary. These subgenres are forms of creative nonfiction where analysis and reflection on real world events are distilled through the prism of an author's point of view. Sometimes that point of view can be humorous, sometimes it's political, and sometimes it's purely meditative. What prevents this subcategory from being fiction is that it is rooted in objective events, both present and historical. That is all from me for nonfiction. Thank you for listening. Next we have
Hello, good day everyone. My name is Marilyn S. Escutido, and today we will be discussing all about autobiography. So let's find out. So, autobiography is the biography of oneself narrated by oneself. Autobiographical works can take many forms from the intimate writings which were not actually intended for publication, such as letters, diaries, or even our journals. So, did you know that autobiography literally means that auto, which means self, bio, which means life, and graph, which means writing? In other words, autobiography is the story of someone's life written or otherwise told by that person. So, your life story or autobiography should contain the basic framework that any essay should have. Begin with the introduction, which includes your thesis statement, followed by your body, which includes several paragraphs or chapters. And to complete your autobiography, you need a strong conclusion, all the while crafting interesting narrative of your theme. So the next topic that we have is all about the types of autobiography. So in literature, autobiography is divided into four broad categories. So the first one we have the thematic. So it is a type of autobiography wherein writers describes and recounts the life of subject. It also emphasizes other issues. The aim of this writing is not merely to provide facts, but also to predetermine different point of view. The next type of autobiography is the religious autobiography. It is also known as spiritual autobiography, wherein it is a compilation of events or experiences by that person to show their connection to God. The author goes through a series of events to their life which leads them to the ultimate salvation. So we also have here the intellectual autobiography. It is about reflecting on the journey and identifying key experiences that have led to your career choice. So it is also where readers are interested in what has shaped your thinking and shows events which guide your intellectual journey. And now we're down to the last type of autobiography, which is the fictional autobiography. It is about the truthful telling of the author's experiences which there are sections that needs to be fictionalized in order to protect identity of the people. So in this type of autobiography, events can be exaggerated or altered for thematic or artistic purposes. So the word autobiography was first used by William Taylor in 1797 in the English periodicals The Monthly Review, which he suggested the word hybrid but then condemned as pedantic. So in 1990s, the autobiographies of childhood became one of the most publishing trends. So these autobiographies challenge the romantic notion of childhood, thus contributing to the contemporary societal debate about children and childhood crisis. Since we're all talking about the childhood autobiography, I have here a few of the examples of the autobiography which tackles about their childhood experiences. We have here the first one, The Tales of Childhood, which is an autobiographical book by Roald Dahl in which it describes his life from birth until leaving school, his conditions in living, the public school system on that time, and even his childhood experiences which led him to writing as a career. Roald Dahl was actually a British novelist, short story writer, screenwriter of Norwegian descent, which his prominence rose in the 1940s for his work both of children and adult literature. Another one we have here, Nuts in My Yo-Yo String. So it is an autobiographical work of Jerry Swinley in which he described his life when he was a child until he was a senior. Also, he describes here his fondest childhood memories. So Jerry Swinley was actually an American writer of children's novel which features adolescence and early adulthood. So the last one we have here entitled as Bill Pitt. Some of you might be familiar with this name because he's actually behind some of those Walt Disney characters. William Bartlett Pitt was actually an American children's book illustrator and at the same time a writer and animator at Walt Disney. His first work was actually Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Since we're done with autobiography, let's move on to the next topic, which is the biography.
Good day, everyone. I am April Imirasol, and today I am going to discuss about biography. So, what is a biography? Biography is a form of literature commonly considered non-fictional, the subject of which is the life of an individual. It is one of the oldest forms of literary expression, and it seeks to recreate in words the life of a human being. Written in third person, biographies generally span a subject's lifetime, from birth to death, and include major events in his or her private and public life. Biographies may delve into a person's psychology and explore its emotional, intellectual, and spiritual lives. Now let's go to the characteristics or elements of biography. Number 1. Describe and discuss the life of a real person. Number 2. Informations are based on facts. Number 3. Incidents, dialogue, and people are accurate and from a reliable source, using first-person accounts when available. Number 4. The person's life story is told with respect to other people and the events of the time in which they lived. Number 5. Develops an understanding of the times, places, events, and other people when the person lived. Number 6. Tells the story in a tone or style that the reader or listener can relate to that person and believe in their humanness. Number 7. Develops a person as a real and interesting person, not a persona or a stereotypical member of a particular group. James Boswell, a Scottish biographer, diarist, and ranks as the greatest biographer in the history of Western literature, wrote what many consider to be the first modern biography, The Life of Samuel Johnson in 1791. There are four basic types of biographies. Number 1, historical fiction biography. Number 2, academic biography. Number 3, fictional academic biography. And lastly, the prophetic biography. First, let us discuss what is a historical fiction biography. A fictionalized biography is a creative account inspired by the events of a person's life. The fictional style is often used in contemporary biographies, such as the accounts of celebrities, athletes, and politicians who are still alive. These true stories often inspire tales for films or televisions. Usually, the stories are loosely based on a few well-known facts about the individual, and then developed for greatest entertainment value. There is a little concern for literal accuracy or factual integrity regarding the individual's life lessons. The first example of a fictional biography is Dream Big, Michael Jordan and the Pursuit of Excellence by Dolores Jordan. This is a fictionalized biography of Michael Jordan long before he became a professional all-star basketball player. Written by Michael's mother and illustrated by Barry Root, it gives a rare glimpse into a sports hero's childhood and emphasizes the role that good values play in success. The second example of a fictional biography is The Dreamer by Pam Munoz Ryan, a fictionalized biography of the Nobel Prize-winning Chilean poet Pablo Neruda, who grew up a painfully shy child, ridiculed by his overbearing father, but who became one of the most widely read poets in the world. The second type of historical story based on an individual life is the academic biography. Academic biographies rely heavily upon the documented facts and noted accomplishments of a person's life. Academic historians will group related facts around a person's accomplishments. The first example of an academic biography is The Boy Who Loved Math, The Improbable Life of Paul Erdos by Deborah Heiligman. This is a beautiful introduction to the world of math and a fascinating look at the unique character traits that made Uncle Paul a great man. The second example of an academic biography is The Story of Jane Goodall by Susan B. Katz. This book explores how Jane Goodall went from being a young nature lover in England to the most important chimpanzee expert in the world. The third category of biographies is the fictionalized academic biography. The fictionalized academic biography tries to combine the best elements of the fictional biography and the academic biography. The documented events of a person's life are used in an entertaining manner while striving to relate an honest impression of the individual. By combining the author's or the director's unique insights into life along with the facts and lessons of the individual, the result is a balanced view of how someone may have lived. The first example of a fictionalized academic biography is Junko Tabi Masters the Mountains by Rebel Girls. This is the story of the first woman to climb Mount Everest. Even more than that, it's a story about conquering fears, personal growth, and never shying away from a challenge. The second example of a fictionalized academic biography is Ada Lovelace Cracks the Code by Rebel Girls. This is the story of a pioneer in the computer sciences and a testament to women's invaluable contributions to STEM throughout history. Finally, the fourth type of retelling the story of a person's life is the prophetic biography. A prophetic biography differs from fictional entertainment biographies because it seeks to inspire an idealistic change in the reader rather than just providing base entertainment. The prophetic biography differs from the fictionalized academic biography because from the outset of its conception, there is a goal to communicate practical life lessons for the overall improvement of the reader. An example of a prophetic biography is the Goodnight Stories from the Life of the Prophet Muhammad by Sania Znain Khan. It is an Islamic children's book on the Quran, the Hadith, and the Prophet. Goodnight Stories from the Life of the Prophet Muhammad is the answer to every child's longing to hear a good bedtime story. It contains a careful selection of 23 magnificent tales from the life of the Prophet retold in age-appropriate language.
The book offers a special dimension to these wonderful goodnight stories and acts as a foundation in which to build a growing knowledge of Islam. Another example of a prophetic biography is David and Goliath by Christine Detchfield and Jerry Smath. The biblical story of David and Goliath is a well-known parable. David, a young shepherd, sets out on a quest to defeat the evil tyranny of a giant Philistine, Goliath.
So, what is the importance of biography? Biographies help us gain insights into how successful people handle crises and solve complex problems. They invite us into people's lives, allowing us to observe them as to how they grapple challenges and make important decisions.
That would be all for our report. Thank you.